In 2003, shortly after the 4th generation Camaro was discontinued, Chevy was making vehicles. They were making Silverados, Impalas, Malibus, that kind of thing. Just your general run-of-the-mill, you could possibly call them boring vehicles. Mostly somewhat reliable, but still nothing all that interesting. They just killed their muscle car. They still had the Corvette, of course, but the Camaro was gone. Then they decided to do something crazy that year and release the Chevy SSR pickup truck. This thing is wild. This is a V8 powered hardtop convertible sports car pickup truck with retro styling, and I have always thought it is one of the coolest things that Chevrolet ever produced. And today we're going to take a look at this thing. Before we get started, huge thanks and huge shout out to West Chevrolet of Alcoa, Tennessee for loaning me this SSR to review today. Go check out their great selection of new and used vehicles at the link in the description below. Once again, huge thanks to them. All right, back to the SSR. Today I'm going to take you all on a full tour of the Chevy SSR, a full review, and show you all the things that make it cool, weird, or stupid, depending on your viewpoint of it. I think it's both weird and cool. Let's take a look at this thing. I've been excited to do this for almost 20 years. The Chevy SSR was released for the 2003 model year and only lasted 4 model years, being discontinued for 2006. For the first 2 years, 03 and 04, this came with the 5.3 liter V8 engine that Chevy had been using forever. 300 horsepower, made it to a 4-speed automatic transmission. Then in 2005, Chevrolet wised up and realized that something this cool needed more power. So they replaced the 5.3 liter with a 6 liter V8 LS2 that produced 390 horsepower. And it could then also be optioned with a 6-speed manual transmission. Now, sadly, this is not one of those later models. This is a 2004 model, so it does have the 5.3 with the 4-speed, but I'm still super excited to review this thing. This car in 2003 started right around $41,000. Adjust that for inflation to 2022, you're talking right around $64,000 if this thing was a new car today. I don't know, it might actually kind of match the time. Let's see if it's worth the money. Let's start on the outside of the SSR with its most obvious quirk, its styling. Now, this is supposed to be a retro styled sports pickup truck type of thing, and you can see the retro styling with a big wide fenders sticking out from the center of the body. You have these nice chrome 5-spoke wheels, although they were not all chrome, but these ones are. Staggered size, 19s in the front, 20s in the rear. Coming down the side, you have these nice step boards. Not exactly necessary for a car this low, but it gives it and kind of adds to the appearance. Here you have your exterior door handles, which are these silver semicircles. That's kind of interesting. Coming down the side, looking at these side reflectors, these are your side marker light / reflectors, and if we come in really close, you can see there is a Chevy bow tie in the middle of it. You get that effect both on the front and rear side markers. Coming around the back, nice round tail lights. That of course gives it a sporty retro look. Of course, your reverse lights of course were stuck down here next to the license plate because those are definitely not as important as the tail lights in the styling. Here you have your silver Chevrolet badge, although I think maybe at one time it might have been kind of gold colored. But down here, most important badge, the SSR badge on the tailgate of this truck. You also do have a tailgate mounted third brake light, something before this you only ever saw in a first generation Dodge Dakota, and after this you've only ever seen in the Jeep Gladiator. Good reason for this though, because once again, hard top convertible. Coming down the passenger side, exactly the same as the driver's side, but still very, very cool. Let's zoom in on that front side marker. You can see the Chevy bow tie in the center there. And coming back around to the front, you have these nice circular headlights with your different levels. I'm assuming your low beams up top and highs on the bottom, separated by Chevy's traditional silver bar that runs across the entire width of the vehicle. And then underneath that, you do have two small turn signals, kind of more centered in the grille, and a couple of nice round fog lamps down below. Coming back around to the back, we do have a tonneau cover over the bed. Now this does have a pickup truck bed, but before I open this tonneau cover, I want to point out a small detail on the exterior. So as we see right here, this tonneau, this bed cover, does not come all the way to the back window. And there's a reason for that, which you'll see in a little bit. Now to open your rear tonneau cover, you have your typical Chevrolet remote at the time, your General Motors remote. The SSR did not get a special remote. Press and hold your trunk button, and your tonneau automatically pops open and raises up on hydraulic struts. Now inside, if we pull this semicircle here on the inside, the tailgate comes down and we open up into a bed. Now this one has the carpeted bed in it, which I believe was maybe a factory or a dealership option at the time. You can see it's got a carpet piece on the tailgate. It's got this carpet on the bed floor with these wood strips, and it's got these cool storage boxes in the side, which I don't think they all came with either. I'm pretty sure these are also an option. Here's your SSR floor mats. They are sitting in the back. But you see your floor mats do say SSR on them. That's very cool. And if you look up in the front, you got an SSR badge on the front panel carpeting as well. Now once again, these weren't all carpeted. Some of these did come with just this same hard plastic as this right here. You can say it says SSR on this tailgate bed sill piece here. Very cool. A somewhat useful pickup truck with this. Do you call it a bed or do you call it a trunk? I'm not really sure. Well, the government calls it a trunk because it closes, and so you do have to have the emergency release just in case you kidnap someone in one of the weirdest cars ever. You also get a 12-volt round power outlet back here. Kind of nice to see back there. Now, interestingly, when it's time to close the back of this up, you must have the tailgate down. Even if all you do is raise this tonneau cover, you still have to have the tailgate down to close the tonneau. It even says right here, tailgate must be open before cargo cover can be closed. So with the tailgate down, you just push this down and then you close the tailgate. Also, if you're wondering what the cubic feet storage figure is back here, you're talking 23.7 cubic feet of cargo storage. Because although it looks a little wide, and of course it's long like a bed, it is kind of short, kind of like a trunk. So tall items won't fit unless you remove this tonneau cover. Now, if you remember me mentioning a second ago how the tonneau cover, the bed, does not reach all the way to the rear end of the car, and that is for using the convertible top. So from inside the car, to put that down with the car on and your foot on the brake, this center button is that control. Push this backwards to lower it, forwards to raise it. Let's see that in action from outside the car. And once the process is complete, you get a nice ding from the car that tells you can now release the button. You do have to hold the button down for the entirety of the operation, both down and up. But now, take a look at this car. Now take another look at this thing with the top down, and you'll see why this thing is so weird and cool. It is a pickup truck, convertible, sports car. This thing is cool. Let's jump on in the interior and see what it's like. Getting in, we do pull on the silver semicircular door handles, and it is worth noting these handles are silver regardless of the color. This yellow is one of the cool colors that this was available in. It was in other colors like silver and such. The other really cool color this was available in, and I think it was also the press color for the car, was a purple color. That would be really cool to get in front of, because I love a nice purple car. Anyway, starting here with the open door, you have your door panel. Here's your power mirror controls, and you see the silver line that kind of runs down here. This is your door handle, runs into the door release, which is in this silver circle. Very cool. You do have a Bose speaker system in this thing, which actually does sound pretty good, but this being YouTube, you're just gonna have to take my word for it. Door sill here with SSR stamped into it. You do have heated seats, fully power controllable, although I don't like the placement of the power seat control, or the heated seat control. Seems like that would be hard to do with the door closed. Coming across the dash, we have our typical Chevrolet headlight controls, nothing really special there. Up to the steering wheel, you do have controls for your center information display, which isn't much of anything, but it is there. And here's your radio controls. Interestingly, your cruise controls actually mount on the stock, which is something that General Motors have been doing for quite a while, and I know Chrysler have been doing it for some time too. Actually not uncommon at all. If I'm not mistaken, my 4th gen Camaro that I had, my 1995, had them in the same place. Up here at the gauge cluster, you have your typical tachometer. Looks like it redlines about 5,500. This isn't a 5.3 engine. It's not a LS2 like the later models, so it is a lower revving engine. But these are also known to be very reliable engines. Here's your center speedometer that registers 140. I'd be interested to see if it does that. We won't be testing that today. And in this third pod, you have 3 gauges: your temperature, your oil pressure, and your fuel, and of course the Chevy SSR in the gauge, because every sports car needs this logo in the gauges. Coming across, we have these nice kind of small, narrow AC vents. Not really a fan of how small those are, but it's a small cabin, so it's probably okay. And a period correct General Motors AM, FM, and CD player. Nothing really special to point out there. Below that, we have some nice silver knobs for your climate controls. These actually look pretty good, even now. If they weren't worn with age, you know, this car is 18 years old at this point, they'd look even better. But these actually, even now, still look pretty good. And you can see they're integrated into the Chevy line that runs across the dash. Coming down from there, here is your center console with your automatic shift lever. And an interesting part of this is there is no lettering on this indicating what position is park, neutral, reverse, that kind of thing. It is completely smooth. Your only indication is up in the gauge cluster, a digital readout, much like a lot of Chevy trucks of the time. Kind of like a Chevy truck. Behind that, you do have your power window controls, left and right, traction control button, and your power locks, all integrated right here. Now, this is not for blind use unless you can feel the position of them, because they're all the same shape, the same size. They all look and feel exactly the same. So try not to put the top down when you're just trying to unlock the car. You will notice that this console is color matched to the car. It's the same yellow as the outside. And you'll see there's actually more color matching than that in this interior. As you can see, the top of your door card is color matched, as is this top part around the dashboard of the car as well, which of course continues onto the other door and then around behind the seats to this part of the center console behind you. Now if we come back from the shifter area, we do have a very narrow center storage area. There's a little button here on the side. If we push that button, when you pull this up, and you can see it's a very narrow storage console area, not much can fit in here. Here's your owner's manual, and it pretty much takes up almost all of this. Also hiding in here is something very interesting. Let's see what this is. So this piece is your cup holder. Now watch this. Here on the side of the console is a slot. We just kind of slide that in there, and then if you open it, you have a cup holder. Now this particular one is a little bit broken. It could probably use with a replacement clip or something, so it's not the most sturdy thing in the world, although I can't imagine it being the most sturdy thing to begin with. But this is your cup holder in this car. Now crazy enough, you can mount this thing on the driver's side as well. So slide it in a matching slot here and pull it down and it's open, but that's just a horrible place. I'm trying to drive the car, my legs bashing into my cup holder and the cup in the cup holder. That's just not a good way of doing things. So I suspect no one ever uses it over here. Now, if you're wondering if there's any other cup holders in this car, there actually is. There's one right here to the right of your climate controls. If you push that, here's another cup holder. Not exactly big. I don't think you're even going to get a 20-ounce bottle in there. But it was 2003, not now. It's not the sturdiest thing in the world, but it is there and it works. Now, if you notice, there's a matching little thing here on the driver's side that looks like it might be a cup holder, but this isn't. This is just a little bitty storage tray, although it is lined in felt, which is kind of nice. So you put some coins in here and they won't make very much noise rolling around in your felt lined storage area. Now in front of your center console, underneath the climate controls, you do have a 12-volt round on this side and on this side, the driver's side, which has a cigarette lighter in it. And if you press on this panel here, it will drop down to reveal another plug and a little ashtray. Kind of handy to have 3 plugs in the front of this car. Even in 03, as long as you had an adapter, you could charge some devices. Although I think you'd be charging more now because I don't think we even had smartphones in 03. Anyway, still kind of nice to have all that power here. Last thing on the dash is your glove box. It has a sideways mounted handle pull, much like the doors on the outside. Pull that down and it's actually a relatively small glove box. Not big at all. Now, if we look deep into here, we can see there's a button here. This button is the release for your rear tonneau cover, much like the rear trunk lid cover in a lot of General Motors sedans of this time and earlier. Also, inside this glove box is a tool. Now, this tool is a specific tool to this vehicle. You can see the head on it, very proprietary, very specific. This is to only be used should the automatic latches for your top fail. There's a little plug right here. If they were to fail, you pull this out and use that tool to unlatch your top, which could be manually lowered. But from what I understand, these are no longer being made, so definitely want to hang on to it. If you got it, don't lose it, and if you buy one, make sure it has it. And if it doesn't, search eBay or something, because you can only use this tool. Now, if you're wondering, could there possibly be even a little bit more storage in this vehicle, you're going to be a bit disappointed. If we pull this driver's seat forward and look behind it, there's not much back here at all. You might put a sliver of something between this and this box. This box actually contains a tire inflator kit because this vehicle does not have a spare tire. It does not have a spare tire because the battery is actually located underneath the rear of the vehicle where the spare tire would be. Kind of having to get underneath the car to change the battery, but that is the case. And sadly, I was not able to get the passenger seat to fold down. I'm not sure what's up with that, but I felt in there and there's nothing there either. There's no storage in this car really, except for that tiny center console and that tiny glove box and your little felt line tray. And finally, to the important part of the car, the power plant. Under the hood, the 5.3 liter V8 producing 300 horsepower and some torque figure I don't remember. This obviously was not the most powerful option for this vehicle. Once again, for 05 and 06, Chevy realized this thing needed power. 0 to 60 for this version with the 5.3 is about 7 to 7.5 seconds. With the LS2 V8 that came later, you're dropping that to nearly 6.5 seconds from what I could find online during doing my research. So definitely made this a faster vehicle with that LS2. Still a very potent powertrain, and from what I understand, these 5.3 Vortex are actually pretty reliable engines. As we come in closer, we'll see the engine cover with the SSR printed on top of it, because why wouldn't you print that there? And another point to make, for anyone concerned about the battery being under the rear of the car and thinking, my God, am I gonna have to climb under there to jump it off if it goes dead? No, you are not. Chevy actually did think of that, and they put inside this box is a jump point for your battery, so you can still jump it from under the hood. The only reason you're gonna have to crawl underneath it is to actually change the battery. So they did think of that. And here's an interesting bit on the underside of the hood I've never seen before. Apparently they don't want you to just reach up on top of the car, of the hood, and close it. They want you to pull it down by the hook, which, I mean, you're still gonna have to push on the top of it because you got to get it closed. Man, it looks so cool. All right, so there's the walk around of the Chevy SSR. Now it's time for the part I'm most excited about, that I've wanted to do since I was 13 years old when this car was released. Let's get this thing out on the road and drive it. Before we drive this car, let's not forget the part every car guy's gonna want to hear. What does this car sound like with that 5.3 liter V8 engine under the hood? Let's find out. All right, it is time to drive the Chevy SSR. And let's just go ahead and give it some gas right away. She's actually pretty quick. She made my camera move a little bit. Obviously I can't time the 0 to 60. I don't have, you know, a timer on me, but man, this thing is cool. Now, one thing you got to keep in mind with this vehicle is it's definitely not going to offer a smooth ride, because it's already a sports car, but it's also a truck, and It's actually built, if I'm not mistaken, on the Chevrolet Trailblazer platform of the time. This thing is so cool to drive around in. Now I've got, hopefully the wind noise isn't bad. I've got both windows up, even though the convertible top's down, because I mean, why wouldn't I cruise with the top down? You can see the view out of the hood is quite interesting. It's got this pointed nose, and if you tip your head up a little bit, you can kind of see the driver's side fender. This is a cool car. Now I'm not going to be able to get it on the highway. The people loaning it to me made me promise to not leave this particular industrial park, so I'm not going to do that. But I was able to get that pull in for you, and that was definitely very interesting. Visibility is interesting. It's got kind of a small windshield on it, and the top of the windshield does come down right above your line of sight if you're tall like me, so it might block some traffic lights depending on how far away from you those traffic lights are once you're sitting at the intersection. Side visibility is okay. It does have kind of small side view mirrors for, well, a vehicle period, really, but it is kind of cool to look in those mirrors and see those rear wheel haunches. Such a cool view. Out the back is another interesting view. With the top up, it's actually a very small window of view, obviously. With the top down, really the only thing in your way is this wind deflector back here. But it's a very long view over the rear of the car if you're backing up. So for some that might be intimidating, it's not really all that bad for me. I'm used to driving trucks and things that I don't even use the center mounted rear view mirror for. Handling is okay. Once again, remember, this is it's pretty much a truck. It has a solid rear axle in the back. It's not independent rear suspension at all. So it is very much a truck, but it's also very much a sports car. This thing is cool. It's around this corner. I mean, it's okay. It handles it pretty well. I mean, it's not perfect. It's not a true sports car, but it's still very, very sporty. As far as what it's like to be behind the wheel of this thing and drive it, I suppose this would be different for everybody. When this thing came out in 2003, I was 13 years old. I was in middle school. And, you know, my love for cars was really starting to grow at that point. I remember my brother and I, we both had the 1/24th or 28th scale die-cast model of these things with a removable tonneau cover. And I just thought it was the coolest die-cast cars I had. I absolutely thought it was cool, and I always wanted to experience one, and now I'm finally getting the chance to do so. So how cool. I am so thrilled by this. Honestly, if I could have a car payment on a cool car, I'd probably buy this thing. Because, I mean, it is such a neat car. It is so head turning. Even now, remember, this car is a 2004, 03 was the same car. So you think they came out in 03, it's 2022 now. This car is almost 20 years old. And it still turns heads. Nothing else is styled like this. Yeah, they tried somewhat when they made the HHR hatchback thing, but really no one else did anything like this. Chevrolet really killed it with this thing. It's weird, it's quirky, it's cool. If you're not into this kind of thing, it's stupid, and it may have been stupid. I mean, at the time, Chevy just killed off the Camaro, so it was kind of a risk putting something like this out, but they pulled a Dodge thing and said, we don't care, we're going to do it anyway. I wish more companies would be like Dodge and say, you know, we don't care, we're going to do it anyway, because this is a perfect example of, it's cool, deal with it, we're making this. So absolutely, I'm thrilled to be behind the wheel of this thing and experiencing this car, and I'm not going to lie, I do not want to give this thing back. All right, y'all, so that is going to do it for this tour, review, and drive of this 2004 Chevy SSR. I cannot stress enough how excited I was to do this review. This is a cool car. I don't care what anybody says, this thing is cool. And I hope you guys think the same, or at least you enjoy the review of this car. If this is something you've always kind of looked at and said, man, that's kind of cool, I wonder what that's like, I hope to God you enjoyed this video, because I surely enjoyed making it. This is, I mean, like I said, I was 13 when this thing came out, 2003. I was 2 years away from getting my learner's permit. And for nearly 20 years, I have wanted so badly to drive one of these things. And I'm so glad I finally got my chance 20 years later. What a vehicle. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching this review. If you did enjoy it and you want to see more from me on this channel, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, ring the notification bell so you know when a video goes up. Also follow on Facebook and Instagram at that car vlog channel. Sometimes I'll post things there, but mostly it's another great way to get notified of new videos. If you'd like to follow me on TikTok as well, my handle is andy.lees or something like that. I'll put it on the screen. I'm going to try to put more things up on there as well. Also, check the description below for a link to a list of cars I'll be interested in reviewing and driving on the channel. If you've got anything you'd let me review and drive on this channel, such as this, definitely hit me up at my email in the description below. Let me know what you got. I'll try to work something out. Lastly, and most importantly, thanks to West Chevrolet of Alcoa, Tennessee for loaning me this vehicle today for this review. Check them out at the link in the description below. They're a local Chevy dealer. And then let me an SSR. I mean, got to be good people, right? Check them out. And hopefully we'll be able to make some deals with them in the future for more car reviews. Thank you all so much for watching. You have a good one.